Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Vimala, Koteshwari, Rashmi, Sumant, Dilip, Geetanjali, Shivashankar, Muktabi Sahmar, Sudharma. Very good morning.
Please check whether my voice is audible or not. Yeah. So today we'll start with the environment itself. So first thing first, the book has been prepared quite minutely here. But let's understand what to study in environment, right? How environment topic is divided. It will not have too much components. Only 3 or 4 components will be there. So if you look at environment as such, so you have something called, if you look at organism formation, it starts with the so-called nucleus. Inside the nucleus of every organism, there will be genes such as DNAs, RNAs, these things will be present. So it starts with genes of an organism. That may be your DNA or RNA. Next, nucleus. After that, this nucleus will have certain other elements like water, which is present in it, and this is called cytoplasm, which is major important thing of cell. So this we call it as cell. So inside the cells will have nucleus. A group of cells, what it makes? It makes tissues. A group of cells will make tissues. Cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, like this. Different tissues will be present. Now, a group of tissues leads to an organ. A group of tissues like arms, feet, bone marrow, something like this. So organs. A combination, all these organs will come and form the so-called an individual or organism. Individual or organism. So this can be an individual, this can be a tree, this can be a bacteria, this can be a fungi, microbes. Microbes is also an organism, microbial organisms, macrobial organisms, and then these things, right? So organisms. Organisms are called as individuals. Individuals. Now, what is the characteristic of an individual? Everyone here is an individual, right? What is the characteristic of an individual? The characteristic of an individual is that they can survive independently, survive and function independently. Your organs, tissues cannot survive and function independently, but organism can survive independently until here. After that, there will be in the individuals. So that is one arena. Now, once individuals are formed, individuals which are capable of interbreeding, individuals which are capable of interbreeding are called as species, are called as species, are called as species. Next, a group of species, a group of species, you call it as population, group of a particular species is population. And in economics, we have studied what is population growth, what is population growth rate, uh, death rate of population, these things. So population, group of species is called population. Now after that, this population can be of human beings, this can be of birds, this can be of trees, this can be of microbes, anything. A group of population, a group of population of different species, a group of population of different species like birds, animals, trees, grass, microbes, a group of population of different species, together they become the so-called community. They become community. So in community, we find different types of species. And naturally, communities will be identified with the major types of population. What is the major type of population there? Communities will be identified based on that, dominant communities. So communities will be major communities, minor communities. Major communities are those communities which are dominated by majority of the species. Now, so community means until here you have life, group of population, different species. Now this group of population community survives together with interacting with others, that is biotic and abiotic components. So communities, in community what happens? Species cannot live individually, they have to interact with each other. As a result, we find a group of communities interacting with other biotic components and abiotic components, and that becomes one thing known as ecosystem. Ecosystem. So what is ecosystem? Group of communities or group of population of different species interacting with each other. Along with this, they will not only interact with each other, they also interact with the so-called biotic and abiotic components. This is what ecosystems are there. Now, if you look at ecosystems, ecosystems can be classified into different types. Normally, there will be two types of ecosystems. One is terrestrial ecosystems. Second one is aquatic ecosystems. Terrestrial and aquatic. Again, in the terrestrial, you will have grassland ecosystems. Terrestrial means on the earth. You have grasslands, you have mountains, mountain ecosystem, you have forest ecosystem. desert ecosystem, these types. In the aquatic ecosystems, depending upon whether that aquatic system is floatic or not floatic, again you will have two types of aquatic ecosystems. Or you can classify aquatic ecosystems into wetland ecosystems, or you can classify into something like lakes, rivers, like this. So this is how ecosystems will be classified. After that, so a group of ecosystems, ecosystem 1, ecosystem 2, a group of ecosystems is called as biomes, is called as biomes. Next, in the entire biomes, a group of biomes is naturally classified for, classification of biomes can be possible only for terrestrial ecosystems. But in aquatic ecosystems, classification cannot be possible. As a result, biomes will be exclusively for terrestrial ecosystems. Now, a group of biomes where the living organisms are surviving, where the living organisms survive along with their, a group of biomes where the living organisms are surviving. So the biomes can be lithosphere, hydrosphere, or it can be atmosphere. A group of biomes where the organisms are surviving are called as biosphere. Is called as biosphere. So biosphere represents the sphere where living organisms are present on different types of components. Next, the group biosphere is area where living organisms are present on this earth, right? Biosphere afterwards, we have not only living organisms, we do have non-living organisms which are also present. So that becomes earth. That becomes earth. So earth is the next evolution in the biosphere. Next, earth is a component of, larger component of what you call it as universe. Earth is solar systems to universe, something galaxies to, yeah, you can also classify that in this way. So earth is a component of solar systems where there is sun, and this is a planet which is revolving around the star called sun, solar system. Next, a group of solar systems is called as galaxies. A group of galaxies, all the galaxies will become a part of universe. This is the systematic evolution of nucleus genes to universe. This is how it goes. Now here in this classification, studying these components from nucleus to organism, studying of these components, study of these things is called as biology. Biology. Ology means study, bio means living components. So inside living components you are studying. So from here to here, this is biology. Second one is now organisms and how they are interacting with the other components, other organisms, how they are interacting with the so-called nature, that is called living organisms, non-living organisms. This is called ecology. So like this. So ecology. Ecology means okios plus ology. Okios means nature, study. So how individuals are interacting with this. So ecology is this type of study. The third study is, you call it as studying of entirely earth, is called as geography or geology. Geology. Now, this entire study, solar systems, galaxies, universe, is called as astrology. Like this, you have these studies. So, this is how the interaction will be there. So, in science and technology, when we study, science and technology can be classified into general science, right? Physics, chemistry, biology. So, physics, chemistry. Now, what physics and chemistry deals? Physics or chemistry, inside they will go. Chemistry, inside it will go, and it will start with atoms. It will start with molecules, how these atoms are formed, how these molecules are formed. Inside the nucleus itself, they will start with atom, and then there we'll study about the so-called protons, neutrons, these things. And then group of atoms performs molecules. Now group of molecules will raise rise to this one, that is called genes, and then it will start evolving. So you have that component: physics, chemistry, biology. In biology, this is the study. Ecology, this is the study. This one is the study. So whenever I say ecology, we are going to study from here to here. We are going to study from here to here. This is first classification, how the subject is classified. These things, this is also important for UPSC, particularly nucleus, cell, biotechnology, all these are important. This will study in biology. This will study in biology. And this one is geography. This is separate study, right? Next subject will be geography, like this. But this is the one that we have. Now, if you look at ecology also, how UPSC or how we can divide this ecology altogether. Ecology again can be divided into very simple thing. First one is we study about some basics of ecology. Basics of ecology. Now, what do I mean by basics of ecology? We will study about the so-called ecosystems. We will study about ecosystems. How individuals are interacting with each other, these things. Second one is we'll study about basically basics. Basics అంటే individual ఎలా sustain అవుతుంది, how individual is sustaining, how they are interacting with each other, what is ecological niche, these things. And then we'll study something about ecosystems, because we are studying about this major component, communities, abiotic and biotic components. We'll study about ecosystems and how they are interacting. Second one is we have to study about the biosphere, all the living organisms, the flora and fauna which are present here is called biosphere. So we have to study about biodiversity, how different organisms are sustaining here, biodiversity. So first one is ecology basics plus biodiversity. These are the first two components that we'll have. So nature has given us these two things. Nature has given us these two things. So now what happens due to extreme interactions of one or extreme events of one organism? So one organism starts dominating in the entire ecosystem or in the entire biosphere. For example, today human beings are dominating all the other species. As a result, when one organism among all these biodiversity, one organism is getting dominated over the others, it creates some challenges to the existing ecosystem or to the existing environment. At that point of time, what happens is we will start disturbing the nature, either through the issuing of pollutants and thereby harming this biodiversity. So, and slowly we harm the entire earth by bringing something called climate changes. So the second component is this. So first one is basic, studying of how this nature is present, how this biodiversity is present, different types of biodiversities, these things. Afterwards, we come about how one dominant species is creating disturbance to the others. That becomes by release of unnecessary things into the environment. That is called pollutants. and thereby slowly we will start dominating to such an extent that biodiversity will be lost. And over a period of time, if you are polluting too much, the entire earth that we have inhabited is getting changes. So this is called climate change. So the second aspect that we have to study is pollution, climate change, biodiversity loss. So first one is basics of ecology, such as how this nature is present, how these organisms are surviving, different types of organisms. In biodiversity, we'll study different types of organisms, such as the so-called some organisms which are very, very critical to survive, which are surviving in excess, these things. And then disturbing this. Once you have disturbances, you have to bring the normalcy, right? You have to bring the normalcy. So there should be some regulations. How to regulate it? In order to regulate it, what we have certain laws or conventions or legislations, you call it as, or legislations, you call it as laws, conventions, legislations. These conventions can be made at the global level. These conventions can be made at the India level. So we have to study what are the different regulations which are present at the India level, what are the regulations that we have at the global level. So this is how the classification is done. In ecology, we'll not study too much. Whatever you entire book is present. They will be either asking some basics. You have to know some terms here. So that is important. Once you understand the terms, you have to understand biodiversity, how this biodiversity is present, and then there will be some basic definitions of biodiversity also, how to measure the biodiversity, right? What is alpha diversity, beta diversity, these things will be there, and then how pollutants and climate changes are creating impact and how to regulate them. సో ఉండేది మూడు కాంపోనెంట్సే. ఒకటి వచ్చేసి బేసిక్స్ ఉంటాయి దీనికి దీనికి సంబంధించినవి. సెకండ్ వన్ వచ్చేసి పొల్యూటెన్స్, క్లైమేట్ చేంజ్. థర్డ్ వన్ వచ్చేసి ఇది క్వశ్చన్స్ అనేవి ఇక్కడే ఉంటాయి ఇంకా. సో three types of questions. Questions will be on these things. That is called basics. Out of geography, biology, and this one, ecology basics are very, very simple. Ecology basics are simple because directly they will pick up and we have to find it out. Basics will be simple. Second component, pollutants, climate change. Question will be open question here. So here specific question ఉంటుంది బేసిక్ ఫ్లో. అంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఎకలాజికల్ నీచే అంటే ఏంటి, ఎడ్జ్ స్పీసీస్ అంటే ఏంటి, ఆర్ దే కెన్ ఆస్క్ ఈకోటోన్స్ అంటే ఏంటి, ఈకోక్లైన్స్ అంటే ఏంటి, ఆటోట్రోప్స్ అంటే ఏంటి, హెట్రోట్రోప్స్ అంటే, దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ బేసిక్స్ ఆఫ్ ఈకోసిస్టమ్స్. రైట్. నౌ వన్స్ దట్ ఈస్ డన్, బేసిక్స్ అనేవి కొంచెం క్లారిటీగా చదవాలి. వాట్ ఎవర్ బుక్ దట్ యూ ఫాలో, దిస్ బేసిక్స్ షుడ్ బి ప్రజెంట్. After that, we have to study about pollutants. Here, the question is very simple. No need to study exclusively. So, they will say that pollutants ఏ విధంగా వస్తాయి, నాయిస్ పొల్యూషన్ అవ్వచ్చు, వాటర్ పొల్యూషన్ అవ్వచ్చు, ఎయిర్ పొల్యూషన్ అవ్వచ్చు. There will be different ways of polluting. So, whenever you have these pollutants, say for example, they can ask when you go to a thermal power plant, what are the pollutants that are going to come out of these thermal power plants? What are the pollutants that are going to come out of the so-called vehicle exhaust? These things. So ఇటువంటివన్నీ కామన్. ఆల్ ద అబవ్ అనేటివి కరెక్ట్ అవుతాయి మన కామన్ సెన్స్ తో. మళ్ళీ పర్టికులర్ గా చదవనక్కర్లేదు దీనికి. సో ఇన్ ద ఎగ్జామినేషన్ హాల్, వాట్ ఎవర్ ద క్వశ్చన్స్ దట్ దే ఆర్ ఆస్కింగ్ ఇన్ దిస్ డైరెక్షన్ యాజ్ ఫర్ యాజ్ పొల్యూటెన్స్ అండ్ క్లైమేట్ చేంజ్ ఈస్ కన్సిడర్డ్, మోర్ ఆర్ లెస్ దిస్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు బి ఓపెన్ క్వశ్చన్, విచ్ మీన్స్ ఆల్ ద అబవ్ అనేటివి కరెక్ట్ అవుతాయి. నెక్స్ట్, హియర్ లాస్ కన్వెన్షన్స్. హియర్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు బి స్పెసిఫిక్. Here we have to be specific. Indian laws are simple. Indian laws are simple. Global level lo different conventions ఉంటాయి. That global conventions we have to be careful. The toughest part is understanding global conventions. ఆ global conventions కూడా recent గా ఏం జరిగాయి, ఏం కథ అనేది కూడా క్వశ్చన్స్ అడగచ్చు. So there we have to be careful. The rest of the things are simple. The rest of the things are simple. This is what we have. So basics, disturbing this and this one. So if you look at this book also, so what they have given contents. So look at this. Open the content page once. Open the content page once. Holism in ecology, ecosystems, food chains, food webs, biotic interactions, ecological pyramids, ecological succession, nutrient cycle, aquatic ecosystems such as coral reefs, mangroves, wetland ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystem, all these are I, J, K is aquatic ecosystems, and then they have come to terrestrial ecosystems. So this is classification of ecosystems. So if you look at HIJKL, classification of types of ecosystems, this is okay. Aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. After that, you have something biotic interactions of ecosystem functioning. Now look at this: ecological pyramid, ecological succession, nutrient cycle, these things. EFG, food chain, food web. So CEFG is discussing about ecosystems and functions of ecosystems. Functions of ecosystems. So second B is ecosystem. B is ecosystem. Now functions of types of ecosystems is this: aquatic and terrestrial. Functions of ecosystems వచ్చేసి you will have how ecosystem is developing. Successions ద్వారా ecosystem will develop. There we have ecological succession. Now ecosystems will have what I said. Look at here. Ecosystems will have these components, right? Terrestrial, aquatic types. తర్వాత వచ్చేసి how ecosystem developed. For that you have successions. Ecological successions అనేవి ఉంటాయి through which an ecosystem will develop. సో దిస్ ఇస్ డెవలప్మెంట్. అసలు ఎకోసిస్టమ్ ఏ విధంగా డెవలప్ అయింది, ఎన్ని రకాల ఎకోసిస్టమ్స్ ఉంటాయి, టెరెస్ట్రియల్, అక్వాటిక్. తర్వాత ఎకోసిస్టమ్స్ యొక్క ఫంక్షన్స్ ఏంటి, ecosystem functions. Here you have three functions. One is energy flow. Or two functions. Second one is nutrient cycling. Nutrient cycling. How energy is flowing, how nutrient cycles are present. In the nutrient cycle, you have biogeochemical cycle. In the energy flow, we'll study about this food chain, food web, how energy is transferred from one organism to other organism, like this. And again, ecosystem is having two things: biotic components and abiotic components. Now, if you look at this biotic and abiotic, what are the abiotic components that influence the biotic components? So, what are the abiotic components? Abiotic means which do not have life, like temperature, rainfall. These do not have life, but they will be impacting the so-called biotic components. So this is called abiotic. And biotic is which have life. Now biotic components can be classified into two types, right? Those who can prepare their own food, those who cannot prepare their own food. So no preparation of food. So like this, biotic components are classified into two types: food and no food preparation. If you are preparing food by yourself, what you call it as? Autotrophs. Autotrophs. Trophs means nutrition. Auto means self. So self-generating, you are generating self for nutrients for yourself. That is called autotrophs. Second one is those who don't prepare their own nutrition, rather they depend on others. This is called heterotrophs. Heterotrophs. So auto and hetero. So autotrophs are also of two types. Autotrophs are also of two types. One is which depend on some organisms will be in such a way that they can prepare their own food through a process called as photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, where they consume the so-called sunlight and they will prepare their own food. Plants are best examples of photosynthesis. There are second types of organisms which can also prepare their own food, but not through photosynthesis, but by chemical reaction. That is called chemosynthesis. So there are two types. One is photosynthesis. Second one is chemosynthesis. So like this, food preparing is again classified into two: autotrophs, heterotrophs. Now depending upon this one, autotrophs and heterotrophs. So this is autotrophs. So autotrophs are photosynthesis as well as chemosynthesis. This is two classifications. Coming to the so-called heterotrophs, which don't prepare their own food. Now, when you are not preparing your own food, you have to depend on others. So you call it as consumers. They are called as producers. Autotrophs are also called as producers. You will be called as consumers. Now consumers are again of two types: micro consumers, macro consumers. So macro consumers means big organisms which will be consuming. consumers means in small quantities they will be consuming annattu. You can classify uh, uh, these things. One is macro consumers, second one is micro consumers. Okay, we are all living organisms, we are present here. There is third one. One is producer, consumer. Third one is once the living organism is dead, on these dead organisms, some organisms will be surviving. They will be decomposing it and they will be surviving it. This is called decomposers. Like this, you have three types. So one is food preparing by their own self, no preparation, heterotrophs are consumers. And then we have third one that is called decomposers. Decomposers. Here decomposition ఏ విధంగా జరుగుతుంది? Some depends upon leaching, some depend upon giving some nutrients, some depend upon giving some enzymes and consuming it. So depending upon which microorganism we are having, that decomposers will be present. So ikkada kuda questions adige chance untundi like this. So food preparing their own, no food preparation. If you are preparing your own food, you call it as producer or autotroph. Troph ante enti? Nutrition. Autotrophic organisms. And then here you have two types I said. Photosynthesis, chemosynthesis. No preparation of their food. Consumers. Consumers are of two types. Micro consumers, macro consumers. Decomposers. Decomposers is which are decomposing the dead organic matter. That may be dead organic matter of animals, that may be dead organic matter of human beings, dead organic matter of plants, anything you can decompose. Like this, you have ecosystems. చూడండి, క్లాసిఫికేషన్ అంతా ecosystems లోనే ఉంటుంది. ఫస్ట్ ecosystem వరకు చదువుతాం. ఫస్ట్ ఇండివిజువల్ సర్వైవ్ అవ్వాలంటే ఎకలాజికల్ నీచ్ అనేది ఒకటి ఉంటుంది. సో దేర్ విల్ బి సమ్ బేసిక్స్ ఆఫ్ ఇట్ దట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు స్టడీ. వన్స్ వీ ఎంటర్ ఇన్ టు ఎకోసిస్టమ్, ecosystems can be classified depending on this. So first of all, how this ecosystem has developed, that is called succession ద్వారా జరుగుతాం. Once you know, okay, this is the ecosystem, this is succession, there will be two types of successions, primary succession, secondary successions. What resulted in primary successions, what resulted in secondary successions. So some terminology is important here. The second one is, once ecosystem has developed, functions of ecosystems. Ecosystems will be doing, or types of ecosystems, such as terrestrial ecosystems, and this one is aquatic ecosystems. Terrestrial, aquatic lo koncham depth ki vellalsi vastundi. Terrestrial ecosystems ante grassland ecosystems. What are the species present there? In 6th class or 7th class NCERT we have studied this. Desert ecosystems. What are the species which are present there? How they adjust with the so-called changing climate. These things. This is called adaptations. So here we'll go in depth and we have to study this. You call it as vegetation. You can call it as the so-called the way in which living organisms are adapting. So this is one discussion. So ecosystems succession, types of ecosystems. Third one vachesi function of ecosystem. What does one ecosystem do? There are two functions. One is energy flow. Second one is nutrient cycling. Energy flow means every organism has to survive here. So how that energy, the major energy is coming from sun. So from sun, how that energy will be captured, and then that how that energy will be transferred from the so-called producer to the so-called consumers. So for that, what we have done, biotic components of ecosystems are classified into two types and chapter. So first you have to understand, ecosystem consists of two things. One is biotic components, second one is abiotic components. Abiotic components are those components which do not have life. But for biotic components or for bioorganisms to survive, abiotic components are important. Now biotic components, so abiotic components, what are the different types of abiotic components? And by looking at the options itself, we can write. After that, what we have this thing that is called biotic components, which have life. And how this can be classified? Preparing your own food, not preparing your own food. Preparing your own food, producer; not preparing your own food, consumer. Or autotroph, heterotroph. Producers, two types, right? One is this fellow, primary producers antam, that is called photosynthesis ద్వారా. Secondary producers are this section. Third one vachesi you have consumption. like this. Now look at it. So there are two components here, producers, consumers are there. And again I said there are photosynthesis చేసే producers ఉండొచ్చు, chemosynthesis చేసే producers. Second classification is consumers, micro consumers, macro consumers. Like this you have this system depending upon which is feeding on what. You are a producer, you may be there will be one producer, I may be dependent on it. So depending upon what is how this nutrition is present or who is producing this. So depending upon how we are taking our food, we have trophic levels. We have trophic levels. So what is trophic levels? How this nutrition is being transferred from one species to from one organism to other organisms is called trophic levels. Here it comes the concept of food chain and food web. Food chain and food web. So food chain ante how this food is transferred. Food web ante the entire web of ecosystem where food is being generated circularly. That is called food chain and food web. So food chain, food web ekkada vastundi? Ee components lone manaku vastundi. This is the next system that you have to understand. So like this classification is present. So if you look at it, ecosystem, food chain, food web are parts of ట్రాఫిక్ లెవెల్స్. అసలు ఆ ట్రాఫిక్ లెవెల్స్ అర్థం కావాలంటే ఫస్ట్ ఏం చేయాలి? అసలు ఎకోసిస్టమ్ అంటే ఏదో తెలియాలి. ఎకోసిస్టమ్ అంటే ఏంటి? బయోటిక్, అబయోటిక్ కాంపోనెంట్స్ లైక్ దిస్. అండ్ దెన్ బయోటిక్ ఇంటరాక్షన్స్ అండ్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్ ఫంక్షనింగ్. Biotic interactions. So when two organisms are surviving, there will be survival with two or three mechanisms. So biotic interactions until look at here again. I have said this. This is the class Hello. Hello. Can you please check now? I hope now it should be audible. Yeah. Okay, thanks for the confirmation. So we'll proceed. So this is how the system is present. This is how the system is present. Now, I hope now you got understood how the structure is present, right? ఎక్కడి నుంచి ఎక్కడికి ఉంది ఏం కథ అనేది స్ట్రక్చర్ ఇది. So what we will do is you can follow any book, but you have to study basics clearly. Even if you neglect this also, that doesn't make much difference. ఎక్కడ climate change, pollution, biodiversity లో కూడా ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ కొన్ని ఉంటాయి that you have to by hearting component ఉంటుంది that you have to by heart. Here we have to be careful. So most important thing is studying the basics on this one. Whatever book that you follow, do it. So what books you can refer normally for this is Shankar IAS. If you have some people traditionally Shankar IAS is good. So if you are following that book, this is also decently good. One advanced version of Shankar IAS is Environment by Shankar IAS. This is one book that you can refer. Idi undi first nunchi. So very simple way he has given. He did not drag much. లేదు అనుకుంటే ఇంకా సింపుల్ వేలో దిస్ బుక్ ఈజ్ ఆల్సో గుడ్. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ అబ్రిడ్జ్డ్ వర్షన్ ఆఫ్ శంకర్ ఐఏఎస్. సో మేజర్ కాంపోనెంట్స్ హ్యావ్ బీన్ టేకన్ ఫ్రమ్ శంకర్ ఐఏఎస్ అండ్ దే హ్యావ్ ప్రిపేర్డ్ పల్స్ ఐఏఎస్. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ ఆల్సో గుడ్. యూ రెఫర్ ఎనీథింగ్. అండ్ దెన్ దెర్ ఈస్ థర్డ్ బుక్ కాల్డ్ పిఎంఎఫ్ ఐఏఎస్. దో వీ హ్యావ్ పిఎంఎఫ్ ఐఏఎస్ బట్ దట్ ఈస్ హ్యూజ్ ఇన్ డెప్త్. సో అంతవరకు అవసరం లేదు. జస్ట్ ఫాలో వన్ సోర్స్, కవర్ ద బేసిక్స్, దట్ ఈస్ మోర్ దెన్ ఎనఫ్. Cover the basics, that is more than enough. After every class I will also share, if you do not have any source itself, I'll share what are the things that you have to study. You just go through PDFs that I'll share here, right? These are the things that we'll have. So we'll start with the questions directly. So this is how ecosystem is present. Let's go for the questions. First question, holism అంటే ఏందండి? హోలిజం ఇన్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్ అని పెట్టావు. హోలిజం ఇన్ ఎకాలజీ అంటే అదొక టర్మ్ అనుకున్నా నేను. ఓకే, నీ ఇన్నోవేషనా ఇది? ఓకే, రైట్. సో లెట్స్ స్టార్ట్ విత్ ద క్వశ్చన్స్. ఫస్ట్ వన్, which of the following terms describe not only the physical space occupied by an organism but also its functional role in the community of organisms? Which of the following terms describe not only the physical space? These are basics, right? Ivanni basics ivi. Not only the physical space occupied by an organism but also the functional role in a community. What is the role that you are playing in the community, right? So community is nothing but group of species, different plants, different population species, right? So group of population of different species is called community. Now here there exists different population, people, insects, birds, trees, plants, like this, microbes. So group of population and different species. Now here, in order to survive, every individual species will have their own functional role. They will have their own functional role. Take for example a honeybee. So what is the role of honeybees in the community? Whenever they are sucking out the nectar from the plants, they will help in cross pollination. So pollination lo help chestundi. That is the functional role of honeybees. Take for example another species like earthworms. What it helps? It helps in decomposition. So every individual here will have a functional specialization. That what is that functional specialization? They occupy some space and they will have some functional specialization. What is that thing is called? So that is called ecological niche. Ecological niche. So which of the following term describes not only the physical space occupied by organism, but also its functional role in the community? This is called ecological niche. Now, two different species will have different niche. Same species, okay? No two species will have same type of niche. No two species will have same types of niche. So niche will be separate from species to species. What about other terms? Ecotone, habitat, home range. What is habitat? The place where uh, the organisms are living. The place where the organisms are living is called as habitat. The place where organisms are living. So నివసించే ప్రదేశాన్ని habitats అంటాం. What is home range then? The place where the organism is dwelling. The place where we survive or where we live is called as habitat. The place where we survive is called habitat. The place where we dwell, right? గాలి తిరుగులు తిరుగుతుంటాం అక్కడ ఇక్కడ ఇక్కడ ఎంతవరకు తిరుగుతాం అని చెప్పేదే home range. This is the thing. So this is called home range. So what is your range of movement? That is called home range. Next, what is ecotone? What is ecotone? See here, there are different types of ecosystems, right? There are terrestrial ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems. Now, on this earth, one ecosystem will be followed with other ecosystems. Take for example, you go to equator, you have equatorial rainforest ecosystems. So rainforest ecosystem is one. Slowly we move to grasslands. Slowly we move to desert ecosystem, something like this. So ఒకదానికొకటి మూమెంట్ అవుతా వస్తూ ఉంటుంది అనమాట. So or take for example terrestrial ecosystems may be leading to aquatic ecosystems. Terrestrial ecosystems may be leading to aquatic ecosystems. So as we transfer from one ecosystem to other ecosystem, the transition zones are called as ecotone. The transition zones between two ecosystems are called ecotones. Now, what is the speciality of ecotone? The speciality of ecotone is here we find the species changing from one area to others. So as we move from this ecosystem to this ecosystem, species change will happen. So this is called transition zone. Where species will start changing slowly. Now we find the species of both ecosystems present here. ఇది ఒక ట్రాన్సిషన్ జోన్ అంతే. సో ఆ స్పీసీస్ ఉంటాయి, ఈ స్పీసీస్ ఉంటాయి, రైట్? ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ కర్ణాటక మధ్యలో వెళ్ళేటప్పుడు రెండు భాషలు మాట్లాడతాం మనం, రైట్? దిస్ ఇస్ ద థింగ్, బార్డర్స్ లో ఉంటే లైక్ దిస్. సో వీ ఫైండ్ స్పీసీస్ బిలాంగింగ్ టు దిస్ ఏరియా విచ్ విల్ బి ప్రజెంట్ ఇన్ బోత్ ద థింగ్స్. దిస్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ ecotone speciality. Species will be present. Now both species will be present. The dominant species which are present in the ecotone, are called as edge species. So ecotone is transition zones between one ecosystem to other ecosystem. We find species belonging to two ecosystems present here. The dominant species is called edge species. Now there is one more term called ecocline. CLINE. Now ecocline represents how species are getting varied. Take for example, if you go for one ecosystem to other ecosystems, species differences will come. look at the so-called Indians and the so-called Northeast Indians, there will be some genetic variations. So the genetical variations that are happening in the individuals will be called as ecoclines. The genetic variations that are happening within the individuals are called ecoclines. Take for example, yes, African elephant, Indian elephant. This is genetic variation. Or within the human beings, you can classify why some color will be, some people's color will be too much dark, why some color will be too much white. So why this complexion is changing? Because of change in the ecosystems. So this physical characteristics that you are changing or that you are observing in the individual is called ecocline. Now, why this changes? Why this changes? Because of change in the ecosystems, pH and other organic components. సో ఈకోసిస్టంలో pH టెంపరేచర్ ఇవన్నీ వేరీ అవ్వడం వల్ల వచ్చేటువంటి ప్రాసెస్ ఈకోక్లైన్స్ అంటాం. దిస్ ఈస్ వాట్ వీ హ్యావ్. సో దీస్ ఆర్ ద టర్మ్స్: ఈకోటోన్స్, ఈకోక్లైన్స్, ఎడ్జ్ స్పీసీస్, ఎకలాజికల్ నీచే, హ్యాబిటాట్, హోమ్ రేంజ్. Next, ecosystems. Which of the following best describes ecosystems? A community of organisms interacting with each other. A community of organisms interacting with each other. The part of the earth which is inhabited by living organisms. A community of organisms together with the environment in which they live. The flora and fauna of geographical area. Now look at it. What is ecosystem? Ecosystems is community of organisms along with abiotic components. Now, a community of organisms interacting with each other and A or not, which means this is only biotic component that they are speaking. Community of organisms interacting with each other is just biotic component. Look at C. Community of organisms together with the environment that they live is called ecosystem. So this is called ecosystem. That part of the earth which is inhabited by living organisms, biosphere. Option B is biosphere. A community of organisms interacting with each other. Biotic components అవి. Next, D చూడండి. The flora and fauna of a geographical area, biodiversity. The flora and fauna. Option D is biodiversity. Next, food chain, food web. A pesticide which is chlorinated hydrocarbon is sprayed on a food crop. The food chain is food crop, rat, snake, hawk. In this food chain, the highest concentration of the pesticide would accumulate in which of the following? This is called, there is one term called biomagnification or bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation or biomagnification. What do you think? బయోమాగ్నిఫికేషన్ ఇది యాక్చువల్లీ పొల్యూటెన్స్ లో వస్తుంది. ఇది So as we move from if you look at the food chain, where there will be producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, like this. So as one organism is consumable by the next trophic level, nutrition level, how energy is being transferred. So here, what happens to certain pollutants? What happens to certain pollutants? So when a small pollutant is entering into the producer, slowly, say for example, you are spraying some pesticides in the agricultural lands. Now, if this pesticide is consumed by the crop, so it starts entering it here. So this is called bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation, where the pesticides or the pollutants start entering into the organism. Now, as these organisms are being eaten away by the next organism, so consumer 1, consumer 2, consumer 3. Now, as this is eaten by consumer 1, okay, consumer 1 ni eat చేస్తుంది కాబట్టి that pesticide which is present here, what it starts transferring to the next trophic level. It starts transferring to the next trophic level along with the food that you are taking. Again, this consumer is being consumed by the next trophic level. So again, this will start entering into here. Again, this will start entering into consumer 3. So the same pesticide which is present here will start moving from one trophic level to other trophic level. Now what it entered in microscopic quantities magnify by this point of time. Magnify, the amount of this one will get magnified. Why? So chinna chinnaga enter into the. Now all these three things will be consumed by this, right? And 2 or 3 organisms they will consume. As a result, slowly this will get magnified. So further ga dini తీసుకొని పోవడం వల్ల, so whatever the accumulated pesticide it is present, it will get magnified as we move from one trophic level to other trophic levels. This is called biomagnification, or you call it as bioconcentration. So it will be present in small quantities in first trophic level, and as we move from one trophic level to the last trophic level, so they will accumulate and they will get transferred. In this food chain, the highest concentration of the pesticide will accumulate in which of the following? Highest concentration ekkada untundi? Trophic 4. Now what is the food chain that they have given? Food crop. They have given crop. Second one is rat. Second one is, third one is snake. Fourth one is hawk. So crop like enter in a pesticide, rat consume చేస్తుంది, ఆ rat ని snake consume చేస్తుంది, ఆ snake ని hawk consume చేసినప్పుడు pesticides will start moving and concentration will start increasing here. So highest concentration will be present in hawk, lowest concentration will be present in crop. So lowest is crop, highest is hawk. So in this concentration, the highest concentration of pesticide would accumulate. Now, in order to biomagnification to take place, in order for biomagnification or bioconcentration to take place, what you should have is this pesticide or this one which is entering, that should be non-soluble. The characteristics of this should be non-soluble. Only then bioaccumulation or biomagnification will happen. So the pesticide which is entering, that should be non-soluble. Soluble avute emotundi? Once it is soluble, it will be discharged. Soluble avutundi, like for example, you are taking water. If it is getting solid, if it is dissolving, it will be excreted out. So బయటికి వెళ్ళిపోతుంది కాబట్టి, so in order to have biomagnification, whatever the pesticide that you should have, they should be of non-soluble in nature. This will be non-soluble in nature. As a result, these pesticides, when they enter into the human body, they will reside in the so-called fatty acids, fats. In the fat tissues, they will go on, they will reside. and they will get magnified over a period of time. So fats lo maximum ga soluble avvavu kabatti they will go on, they will accumulate here. So like this non soluble nature kuda okati undali diniki. Next, biotic interactions and ecosystem functioning. Biotic interactions and ecosystem functioning. The millennium ecosystem which book you have taken? With reference to the food chains in ecosystems, which of the following organisms are known as decomposers anunda? అర్థముడు నువ్వు ఒకటి చేసుకున్నట్లున్నావు. నెక్స్ట్, now look at this. The Millennium Ecosystem Assessment describes the following major categories of ecosystem services. What are the various services of ecosystem? Provisioning service, supporting service, regulating service, preserving service, cultural service. So which of the following is supporting service? So have a look at this. This is one important component. So ecosystems provide the following services. You have to remember this. So have a look at here. There is supporting service, provisioning service, regulating service, cultural service of ecosystem. Now what is supporting service? Nutrient cycling, water cycling, photosynthesis, soil formation. This is supporting service of ecosystems. Second one is provisioning. Ecosystems provides food for us, water, fiber, biomass for survival. Provisioning ante biotic components survive avvadaniki em istundi idi ani. This is called provisioning service. Now how it is helping, supporting nutrient cycling, water, regulating service. How it regulates air quality, water runoff, erosion, pollination, climate, natural hazards. So this is regulating service of ecosystem. Cultural service of ecosystem. Existential values, ethical values, recreation, ecotourism. These are cultural values. So this thing you have to remember. Now who has classified this ecosystem classification? The classification is done by Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. Now look at this. Production of food and water. Production of food and water. What is this service? Provisioning service. This is provisioning. Control of climate and disease, regulating. Nutrient recycling, crop pollination, supporting service. Maintenance of diversity, maintaining of diversity, preserving. This is preserving. Preserving miss ayindi. So preserving, maintenance of biodiversity. So this is how the classification is present. This is how the classification is present. So you have to remember these components. Next, go here. With reference to the food chains, with reference to food chain in ecosystem, which of the following kinds of organisms are known as decomposer organisms? Virus, fungi, bacteria. So, decomposers are of microorganisms will be decomposers. In order to decompose, they have to be self-sustaining. So, virus is not self-sustaining organism. The virus antene, it will depend on others. Hence, decomposing it cannot do independently. So, fungi and bacteria are considered as the so-called decomposers. Fungi and bacteria are called as decomposers. So remember, virus cannot sustain on their own. Virus la unnavu ante they are predatory in nature. Next, with reference to food chains in ecosystems, consider the following. A food chain illustrates the order in which a chain of organisms feed upon each other. Food populations of a species chains are found. What is this question? Look at this question is a bit wrong. A food chain illustrates the order in which chain of organisms feed upon each other. Food chains are found within the population of a species. Question is wrong here. Food chains are tappu padindi ikkada. Food chains are found within the population of species. Food chains illustrate the number of each organisms which are eaten by others. Which are eaten by others. Now have a look at it. What is food chain? It illustrates the order in which chain of organisms feed on each other. This is called food chain. ఒక ఆర్గానిజం ఇంకొక ఆర్గానిజం పైన ఏ విధంగా ఆధారపడుతుందని చెప్పేదే ఫుడ్ చైన్. సో ఫస్ట్ ఆప్షన్ ఈస్ కరెక్ట్. ఏ ఫుడ్ చైన్ illustrates the order in which chain of organisms feed on each other. Food chains are found within the population of a species. Is it correct? This is wrong. Within the population kaadu. Among the species it will be present, not within the same population. Among the species, not within the species of same population. No. Food chains, so that is the reason you have to understand the meaning of population of a species. Species ante which are able to interact. Food chains are found within the population kaadu of a species. Among the population of species you find it. Among, not within. Next, a food chain illustrates the number of each organisms which are eaten by others. Is it correct? No, this is food. This is what you call it as ఏమంటాం దీన్ని a food chain illustrates the number of each organisms which is eaten by others. You call it as food web. Illustrates the number of each organisms which are eaten by others. లేకపోతే దీన్ని ఏమంటాం pyramidal cycle అనేసి కూడా అంటాం. Right? So the answer is only one here. The answer is only one. So look at this. What is food chain? Transfer of energy from one level to other level, one trophic level to other trophic level. So grass to grasshopper, grasshopper to frog, frog to snake, snake to hawk. Each step in the food chain is called trophic level. A food chain starts with the producers and ends with carnivorous. The trophic level of an organism is the position it occupies in the food chain. The trophic level of an organism is the position it occupies in the food chain. A food chain illustrates the order in which chain of organisms feeds, hence one is correct. Food chains are found within the species of population. Man won't eat man. This is the example. It is among the species. So here ఏముండాలి ఇక్కడ among. A food chain illustrates the number of each organisms that are eaten by others. This is not food chain. This is food web. So food web illustrates the number. So option 3 is food web. So you have two types of food chains: grazing food chains, detritus food chains. If you look at grazing food chains, in the terrestrial ecosystems, grass is eaten by caterpillar, is eaten by frog or lizards. Lizards are eaten by frogs. Frogs are eaten by snakes. Snakes are eaten by owl. This is called food chain. This is called food chain. So good bet quali. Flower, caterpillar, frog, snake, owl. Next, detritus food chain. It starts with dead organic matter. Right, decay. Dead organic matter or detritus feeding organisms are called detrivores. The detrivores are eaten by predators. In an aquatic ecosystem, the grazing food chain is major conduit for energy flow. This is not required. So like this, you have this concept. So option A here is food chain illustrates the order ante adi correct. This is among the species anedi undali. 3 వచ్చేసి food chain illustrates the number of each organism, that is food web. Next, going to ecological successions, ecological pyramids గురించి అడగలేదు. In the grasslands, trees do not replace the grasses as a part of ecological succession. This is because, so if you go for ecological succession, normally what is ecological succession? Ecological succession means how ecosystems are developed. So initially there will be pioneer species, slowly other species will come, and climax species will develop, and climax species will develop. So this is called ecological succession. How organisms are developing within an ecosystem is called succession. Now, in order to succeed, one species has to be replaced with the next species. One species has to be replaced with the next species. So as we move from one species to other areas, one species will be slowly replaced by other species. Through this, ecosystems will develop. Now they are asking, in the grasslands, trees do not replace the grasses as a part of ecological succession. Normally, when you going for ecological succession, small grass has to be replaced with plants over a period of time, and then it has to give rise to trees. ఈ విధంగా ట్రీస్ రావాలి. ఎకలాజికల్ సక్సెషన్ జరిగేటప్పుడు స్మాల్ పయనీర్ స్పీసీస్ అనేటివి చనిపోతూ పెద్ద స్పీసీస్ అనేటివి ఎవాల్వ్ అవుతా రావాలి. గ్రాస్ ఈస్ ఎ వెరీ స్మాల్ స్పీసీస్, సో ఇట్ హ్యాస్ టు కమ్ విత్ ద సో కాల్డ్ గుడ్ అమౌంట్ ఆఫ్ ట్రీస్. కానీ why ecological succession is stopping at grass in grasslands? Why we find grasslands which are not converted to grass kasta over a period of time they have to develop into herbs, some species of plants, and then they have to grow, and then they have to grow. This is how it has to happen. Ecological succession ante slowly it has to start and it has to develop. But what is happening here? Somehow ecological succession is stopping at the grass itself. It is not translated into next higher species. Why next higher species are not forming? Because over a period of time, this grass itself, once it is growing in the grasslands, it starts burning. It starts burning and it will get disseminated. So again, it has to go out with the new things. Now look at this. In the grasslands, trees do not replace grasses as a part of ecological succession because of insects and fungi. Insects and fungi valla kaadu. Limited sunlight and paucity of nutrients. Limited sunlight and paucity of nutrients unte first of all grasslands anta density to peragavu. So if there is lack of nutrients, lack of sunlight, grasslands itself will not come. So that is not the thing. Water limits and fire limits. Yes, there will be competition for water, and there will be, see, grasses will take little amount of water, whereas trees has to take large amount of water. As a result, water limits are present. Most importantly, what these grasslands will have is fires. సో గ్రాసెస్ కాస్త సన్లైట్లో వెలిగి ఉండి ఏం చేస్తాయి, ఓవర్ ఏ పీరియడ్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్ యాజ్ ద సీజన్ చేంజెస్ ఇట్ విల్ గెట్ ఫైర్. సో బర్న్ అయిపోతాయి. బర్న్ అయిపోతే ఇంకా మళ్ళీ ఫస్ట్ నుంచి స్టార్ట్ అవ్వాల్సి గ్రాసెస్ వరకు వస్తాయి, మళ్ళీ బర్న్ అయిపోతూ ఉంటాయి. సో సైకిల్ అనేది ఇక్కడిక్కడే రొటేట్ అవుతుంది. ఇట్ విల్ నాట్ ట్రాన్స్లేట్ ఇన్ టు నెక్స్ట్ సైకిల్. సో గ్రాస్ ల్యాండ్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్స్ ఎందుకు డెవలప్ అవుతాయంటే డ్యూ టు వాటర్ లిమిట్స్ అండ్ ఫైర్. ఇఫ్ ఫైర్ ఈజ్ నాట్ హ్యాపెనింగ్, దిస్ గ్రాస్ ల్యాండ్స్ స్లోలీ విల్ డెవలప్ ఇన్ టు బిగ్ అమౌంట్ ఆఫ్ ట్రీస్. ఫారెస్ట్ లాగా కన్వర్ట్ అయిపోతాయి. అదర్వైజ్ యూ విల్ నాట్ ఫైండ్ ఫారెస్ట్ హియర్. That is the one. So water limits and fire, grassland ecosystems. Next, nutrient cycle. In which of the following biogeochemical cycles the weathering of rocks is the main source of release of nutrients to the earth and to enter the cycle? Now have a look at nutrient cycling. There are two types of nutrient cycles. Gaseous cycle and sedimentary cycle. This is important. Cycles are important. You just go through it, whatever I share. So have a look at it. This is most important. Telegram lo పెట్టవా ఇది photo. Now have a look here. Biogeochemical cycles are nutrient cycles. So how the nutrients are changing from one species to other species, that describes biogeochemical cycles. Right. Next, there are two types of nutrient cycles. First one is perfect and imperfect మనకు అవసరం లే. Classification of reservoirs. What is the reservoir for these nutrients? If nutrients are coming from the so-called atmosphere, so gaseous cycle. So gaseous cycle ante nutrients will be depending on atmosphere or hydrosphere. Second one is sedimentary cycle. So where the nutrients, the major reservoir will be Earth's crust. Earth's crust. Now, gaseous cycles are carbon cycles, oxygen cycle, water cycle. పంపించావా అది? So this is important. Questions ఎక్కడ అడుగుతారో చూస్తాం. So one is carbon cycle. So sunlight, photosynthesis. Through photosynthesis, oxygen will be removed like this. So dead and organic waste products. So carbon dioxide is consumed by plants once they are dead. So carbons will be evolved over a period of time and carbon dioxide will be maintaining like this. So this is carbon cycle. So carbon is gaseous cycle. Look at here. So carbon moves from atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide to green plants through photosynthesis. Now from photosynthesis, just like respiration, plants will also respire. So due to respiration, what happens? They will emit carbon dioxide. So plants aina sare, animals aina sare, respiration lo em vadultam, we will give carbon dioxide. So plants consume the so-called, plants are consumed by organisms, next autotrophs, that is the so-called animals or human beings. So once we are dead, carbon dioxide will be again released into the atmosphere through metabolic processes, right? So carbon dioxide can also dissolve into ocean water. As a result, oceans become, this is very important, carbon sinks. Ocean becomes carbon sinks. So what are carbon sinks? Where carbon dioxide can be stored. Two areas you can store. One is in the plants itself. The second one is oceans. So oceans lo carbon dioxide ni store cheyadam ni ocean sink antam. Carbon sink can also be forest. These are the two things that is important. Next, decomposition. So reservoirs of this are these two. Next one is nitrogen cycle. This is important here, very important. Nitrogen cycle. So nearly 78% of nitrogen in the atmosphere is in ideal state, which cannot be consumed directly. Living organisms cannot consume directly. So what you have to do is, nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere has to be converted into nitrates and ammonia, and then you have to use it. You have to use it. Why nitrogen is important? Because they are the basics of cells. DNA, RNA is formed through nitrogen. Kani nitrogen anta abundant quantity lo unnappatiki kuda we cannot use it directly. Hence, what fixation of nitrogen is important. So that fixation can be done through converting into nitrates, nitrites, like this. Nitrogen is transmitted from the atmosphere to living organisms, and then this is released into the back here. So now this is very important. Look here. Nitrogen fixation. Evaru nitrogen fixation chestaru ikkada. Nitrogen must be fixed into compounds like ammonia, nitrites and nitrates. So nitrogen cannot be directly consumed by organisms. So you have to convert them into ammonia or nitrites or nitrates before plants utilize it. Adhe carbon dioxide aithe plants directly it will consume. Nitrogen they cannot consume. So you have to fix it. Nitrogen fixation happens due to the following. Very important. So microorganisms can fix nitrogen. Which are the microorganisms which fix nitrogen? Very important. Look at this. There is bacteria such as Azotobacter, Bacillus clastrodium, Klebsiella, and blue-green algae. These four you have to remember. So nitrogen fixing microorganisms are bacteria: Azotobacter, Bacillus, Clastrodium, Klebsiella, and blue-green algae. Blue-green algae. In atmospheric phenomena like thunder and lightning also fixes it. Thunder and lightning. Urumulu merupulu vachinappudu kuda idi fix avutundi. Third one is industrial process. Through Haber process you will fix it. Haber process. Remember this, ammonia. Preparation is Haber process. Next, HABER. Next, bacteria nitrogen fixation. So bacteria can fix nitrogen ane indake cheppanu nenu. So when bacteria can fix nitrogen, bacteria is of two types: symbiotic bacteria, non-symbiotic bacteria. Symbiotic means rhizobium bacteria is symbiotic, which means living in association with leguminous roots of root nodules. So root nodules tone a bacteria associate ayi untundi, through that it can be fixing. So our roots paine bacteria will be present. So rhizobium is present on the roots, and through that roots itself what they will do, they will fix it. So whenever you have a plant, you have roots. On the roots of the plants you will have bacteria. There is no separate requirement to give nitrogen fixation element here. Directly they will be fixing it. This is called symbiotic bacteria. Example of symbiotic bacteria is rhizobium. Rhizobium. Next, non-symbiotic bacteria. Free living bacteria. This is not associated with the so-called tree roots, such as Astrobacter, Clostridium, Rhodospirillum, Bezymycia, aerobic fixation, anaerobic fixation, and two types of fixations undi malla idi. Next, cyanobacteria is also known as blue-green algae. Important. Ivanni kuda previous year questions. Cyanobacteria is also known as blue-green algae, such as nostoc, anabina, spirulina are the major sources of nitrogen fixation in waters. So oceans lo nitrogen fix chesedi blue-green algae. Examples: nostoc, anabina, spirulina. Legume plants helps in nitrogen fixation. Legume plants. So leguminous roots unetvi legume plants avutayi. Example: alfalfa, sweet clovers, sweet pea, lentils, garden pea. Peas anni kuda legumes. PE అని ఎప్పుడు వచ్చినా కూడా legume. Right? And then broad beans, peas ఇవన్నీ ఒకే ఫ్యామిలీ. Clover beans, right? Alfalfa, all these things are leguminous fixing bacteria. These things are important. ఇవి గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. This table is extremely important. కార్బన్ సైకిల్ చాలా సింపుల్. ఓన్లీ కార్బన్ సింగ్స్ ఆర్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. మిగతాదంతా మనం రాయొచ్చు. మెటబాలిజం చేసినప్పుడు, రెస్పిరేషన్ చేసినప్పుడు ప్లాంట్స్ వాట్ డు ప్లాంట్స్ ఎక్సేల్? కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్. సో ఫోటోసింథసిస్ అప్పుడు మాత్రమే కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్ విల్ బి కన్జ్యూమ్. రెస్పిరేషన్ ఎవరు చేసినా కూడా, వెదర్ దిస్ ఇస్ ప్లాంట్ ఆర్ అనిమల్ ఆర్ ఎనీథింగ్, కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్ విల్ బి ఎక్సేల్డ్. ఇన్హలేషన్ వచ్చి ఆక్సిజన్ తీసుకుంటాయి ఫర్ రెస్పిరేషన్ పర్పస్. సెకండ్ థింగ్, సో కార్బన్ సింక్స్ అంటే ఏదో తెలియాలి. తర్వాత సెకండ్ వన్ వచ్చి నైట్రోజన్. నైట్రోజన్ సైకిల్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. వై దిస్ ఈజ్ ఇంపార్టెంట్? నైట్రోజన్ కెనాట్ బి ఫిక్స్డ్ డైరెక్ట్లీ. యాజ్ ఎ రిజల్ట్ ఇట్ హ్యాస్ టు బి ఫిక్స్డ్ ఇండైరెక్ట్లీ. ఫిక్స్డ్ ఇండైరెక్ట్లీ ఎలా జరుగుతుంది? బై యూజింగ్ సమ్ బ్యాక్టీరియా. Bacteria can be present on the root nodules like rhizobium, or they will be free living bacteria that you have to fix. Leda nitrogen has to be fixed by man himself. So idi bacteria fix cheste, man kuda fix cheyachu ekkada industries lo by using Haber process will be producing ammonia. So this is one way of fixing nitrogen through industrial process. Third one is in the nature itself, during lightning and thunders nitrogen can be fixed. Now coming to bacteria. So bacteria can be fixed in the atmosphere, bacteria can be fixed in the waters also. So waters lo bacteria fix chesedi blue green algae or cyanobacteria. You have to remember examples. Next you have to remember leguminous plants AV. This one. So this table becomes very, very important. Now this is how nitrogen cannot be consumed. So nitrogen fixing bacteria living in the legumes, this is called leguminous trees. So they can fix it. Or nitrogen fixing soil bacteria. Ammonification. So nitrogen has to be fixed by soil bacteria. Next, nitrification. Nitrifying bacteria. Like this, there will be some bacteria, or through lightning that will be fixing. So through this will be present. Now look at this. This is again important. What is nitrification? Ammonium ions can be directly taken up as a source of nitrogen by some plants. So ammonia, nitrogen తీసుకోలేకపోవచ్చు. Ammonium ions they can take it. And then oxidized into nitrites and then into nitrates by nitrifying bacteria. Here is important. Look at here. Ammonium ions are converted into nitrites. Nitrates are being converted into nitrates. You have to remember the bacteria here. Nitrosomonas bacteria or nitrococcus bacteria. So what do nitrosomonas or nitrococcus will do? Nitrosomonas or nitrococcus will convert ammonia to nitrites. So here ammonia కాస్త nitrites గా ఫిక్స్ చేసేది ఏది? nitrosomonas or nitrococcus. Now nitrites నుంచి nitrates గా ఫిక్స్ చేయాలి మళ్ళా. Nitrites is converted into nitrates. Now which bacteria will fix it? Nitrobacter. then nitrates will be consumed. Why plants should take nitrogen? Why human beings are taking, why we are taking nitrogen? Nitrogen is ammonia, basic elements of జీన్స్ ఫార్మేషన్, డిఎన్ఏ ఆర్ఎన్ఏ ఫార్మేషన్కి అది ప్లాంట్స్లో ఉంటాయి, యానిమల్స్లో ఉంటాయి, కాబట్టి నైట్రోజన్ ఈజ్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. దట్ ఈస్ ద రీజన్ వీఆర్ ఫిక్సింగ్ ఇట్. సో దిస్ ఈజ్ ఆల్సో ఇంపార్టెంట్. అమోనియం అయాన్స్, nitrites, nitrates. Nitrites is nitrosomonas or nitrobacter, nitrococcus. Next one వచ్చేసి nitrobacter. Next one. So now nitrates will be taken up by the plant. Nitrates కాస్త plant తీసుకెళ్ళిపోతుంది and they form amino acids. Like this we have. Next, look at this. This is also important. Eutrophication. Certain quantity of soil nitrates being highly soluble in water. So nitrates ga form అయినప్పుడు everything will not be consumed by plant. If there are still some nitrates which are left in the soil will have these nitrates. Now what they will do? They will get washed away. Whenever there is rain, they will get soluble in water and they will get transported. ఎక్కడికి వస్తాయి? They will come to the so-called ఒక వాటర్ పాండ్కి వస్తాయి. Then algal blooms will happen here. So eutrophication means increasing of nitrates which are nutrients. As a result, what happens? Algal blooms will happen. So algal blooms is a result of eutrophication. Why eutrophication happens? Because whatever the nitrogen that is fixed from atmosphere into the so-called soil is not consumed by the plants. As a result, they will get soluble and they will get carried away. Hence, lakes వచ్చిన తర్వాత ఏమవుతుంది? Eutrophication of lakes అనేది జరుగుతుంది. Now this is nitrogen is a nutrient, right? So amino acids ki nutrients important. So the moment you have these nutrients, algal blooms will spread and that is going to result here. Next, ammonification. During excretion and upon the death of organisms. So organisms చనిపోయిన తర్వాత again that nitrogen should come out. Nitrogen is returned to the soil in the form of ammonia. Decomposes, break down organic nitrogen into ammonia. Right? Now, which will decompose? Fungi like Acetomycetes. Acetomycetes decompose and produce ammonia. Look here. Fungi, bacteria can also decompose. Virus cannot decompose. That is one thing. So denitrification. అంటే nitrogen ని మళ్ళా denitrify చేయడం. Bacteria such as Pseudomonas or Thinobacillus convert nitrates back into elemental nitrogen which escapes into atmosphere. So bacteria అనేది ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఇక్కడ. ఏమేం బ్యాక్టీరియా ఫిక్స్ చేస్తాయి, ఏమేం బ్యాక్టీరియా డీఫిక్స్ చేస్తాయి. These are the things that you have to study. So what is the summary here? Nitrogen fixation జరగాలి. So nitrogen is converted into ammonia or ammonium ions. ఇది లైట్నింగ్ ద్వారా జరగచ్చు లేదా సమ్ బ్యాక్టీరియా, న్యాచురల్ బ్యాక్టీరియా ద్వారా జరగచ్చు. నైట్రిఫికేషన్, అమోనియా ఇంటూ నైట్రైట్ ఇంటూ నైట్రేట్. ఇక్కడ ఒక బ్యాక్టీరియా వస్తుంది, ఇక్కడ ఒక బ్యాక్టీరియా వస్తుంది. తర్వాత అమోనిఫికేషన్, dead matter, animal waste, ammonium ions back to nitrate. Most of ammonia escapes into atmosphere. Rest nitrogen is fixed to nitrates. Some of the nitrates is available for plant. Rest is denitrified. So denitrification kuda jarugutundi. This is second cycle. So among all the cycles, nitrogen cycle is extremely important. Enduku బ్యాక్టీరియా గురించి చదువుతాం ఇక్కడ. థర్డ్ వన్ వచ్చి ఆక్సిజన్ సైకిల్. చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి చదివేది ఇది ఆక్సిజన్. సో 78% ఈజ్ హ్యావింగ్ నైట్రోజన్ అట్మాస్ఫియర్లో. The remaining 21% will be oxygen, right? 21% oxygen ఉంటుంది. Second most abundant gas after nitrogen. So this is not important. ఎందుకంటే ఇది this thing we can write it. Oxygen is produced by, oxygen is used by, importance of oxygen, these things. Next, methane cycle. Look at methane cycle. This is also oxygen gaseous cycle. So if you look at methane cycle, it describes continuous movement and exchange of methane gas within the Earth's atmosphere. It is more potent greenhouse gas than CO2. Methane gurinchi konni components more potent than CO2. It has shorter atmospheric life than carbon dioxide. So potential lo ekkuva, shorter lifespan. Methogenesis. Anaerobic microbial process produce methane from organic degradation in oxygen deprived conditions. Sources of methane emission, ఇక్కడ నుంచి మీథేన్స్ వస్తాయి. Wetlands, ruminant digestion, termites, permafrost, agriculture, energy production and usage, biomass burning. So like this you have sources of methane. You have to just remember the side headings: wetlands, ruminant digestion, termites, geological sources, permafrost, these things. So next. సో మీథేన్స్ వచ్చి లైఫ్ స్టాక్ దగ్గర నుంచి వస్తాయి, రైస్ ఫీల్డ్స్ దగ్గర నుంచి వస్తాయి, ల్యాండ్ ఫీల్డ్స్ దగ్గర నుంచి వస్తాయి, బర్నింగ్ ఆఫ్ కోల్, ఆల్ దిస్ మీథేన్ విల్ బి ఎమిటెడ్, బర్నింగ్ ఆఫ్ బయోమాస్, రైట్? సో through this will be coming. Next, sedimentary cycle. What are the sedimentary cycles? Phosphorus, calcium, magnesium circulates by means of sedimentary cycle. ఇప్పుడు వరకు ఏం చదివాం? Gaseous cycle. What are gaseous cycles? Carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen, methane. These are 4. Next one is sedimentary cycle. Phosphorus, calcium, magnesium. Sedimentary cycle does not cycle through the atmosphere but follows erosion, sedimentation, mountain building, volcanic activity. Even rock systems ద్వారా develop అయ్యేటివి. Phosphorus is important. Now look at it. The earth crust serves as a major reservoir for phosphorus. This is important. The earth crust serves as main reservoir for phosphorus. On land, phosphorus exists mainly in the form of phosphates. So phosphates ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తున్నాయండి? Earth crust. Now this is solid. This is solid. Normal ga it takes much of the time to dissolve. It is not that much dissolvable. Kanuka, there is one question in economics. The question is fertigation అనేది విన్నారా? Fertilizer plus irrigation. Now fertigation is not possible for phosphatic fertilizers because this is made up of rocks. Rocks అనేది phosphate, like this. You have to remember this. So just remember the names. దీని మించి ఎక్కువ అడగలేండి. So phosphatic fertilizers is this. Sulfur. The reservoirs of sulfur is soil and sediments. Look at here. So sulfur cycle, first one is phosphorus, second one is sulfur. Primarily stored in soil and sediments, lapped in both organic and inorganic deposits, locked in both organic and inorganic deposits. Pyrite rock, sulfuric rock lo untayi ivi, right? Other sources which volcanic eruptions appudu, combustion of fossil fuels, like this. So these two are important. Where sulfur is present, soil and sediments. Ade phosphorus aithe earth crust lo ekkuva untundi. This is the thing that you have to remember. Sulfur. Third one, ecological succession. This is what I said. Successions are of two types: primary succession, secondary succession. That we'll see later. So I will be sharing this to you people. Just go through it. So cycles are of two types. One is gaseous cycle, second one is sedimentary cycle. Gaseous cycle వచ్చేసి first one is carbon dioxide, nitrogen, oxygen, methane. ఇంపార్టెంట్ వచ్చి నైట్రోజన్, కార్బన్ సింక్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి. తర్వాత ఆక్సిజన్కి వచ్చేసరికి సింపుల్, ఆక్సిజన్ సైకిల్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోనక్కర్లే. తర్వాత మీథేన్. మీథేన్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి ఉంటాయి ఎక్కువ? సోర్సెస్ ఆఫ్ మీథేన్, దట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు రిమెంబర్. మీథేన్ ఈజ్ పొటెంట్ దాన్ కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్, వేర్ యాజ్ లైఫ్ సైకిల్ ఆఫ్ మీథేన్ ఈజ్ లెస్ దాన్ కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్. ఇవి గ్రీన్ హౌస్ గ్యాసెస్లో చదువుతాం. ఇది అయిపోయిన తర్వాత సెడిమెంటరీ సైకిల్కి వచ్చేసరికి వీ హ్యావ్ ఫాస్ఫరస్, కాల్షియం, మెగ్నీషియం, సల్ఫర్. వాట్ ఈస్ ద సోర్స్ ఫర్ ఫాస్ఫరస్? అర్త్ క్రస్ట్. అర్త్ క్రస్ట్ అనేది సోర్స్, రాక్. నెక్స్ట్ వన్ వచ్చేసి సల్ఫర్, soil, like this. Sulfur, soil. This is the thing. Now, in which of the following biogeochemical cycles the weathering of rocks is the main source of release of nutrients to enter the cycle? Weathering of rocks: carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, phosphorus cycle, D వచ్చి sulfur, అది sulfur cycle. So the answer is phosphorus cycle. weathering of rocks. Next, look at this. Which of the following are nitrogen fixing plants? Nitrogen fixing ante legumes undali. Alfalfa, amaranth, chickpea, clover, purslane, kulfa, spinach. Alfalfa, kulfa. Now look at this. One thing that you can write is peas వచ్చేటివన్నీ కూడా legumes. Peas, peas or beans, peas, ఇవన్నీ కూడా legume plants. So peas has to be correct. So 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 5, 6. So C and D you can eliminate. C and D you can eliminate. Now peas అనేటివి nitrogen fixing అనేసి మనకు తెలుసు. Now 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 5, 6. 1 is fixed. Alpha. Right. Alpha ఉంది కాబట్టి కుల్ఫా ఉంటుంది అనుకుంటాం, అంతేం లేదాడా. సో యూ హ్యావ్ ఆల్ఫా, అమ్రంత్, చిక్పీ, క్లోవర్, పర్సిన్. సో ఆప్షన్స్ వచ్చి ఏలో అన్న ఉండాలి, బిలో అన్న ఉండాలి. వాట్ దే గివ్? ఏనా ఆన్సర్? ఏ. సో ఆల్ఫా, చిక్పీ అండ్ క్లోవర్స్. జస్ట్ నౌ ఐ షోడ్ యూ. యూ హ్యావ్ టు రిమెంబర్ దిస్. అందుకే చెప్పా ఇవి గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి అని. Have a look at it. Nitrogen cycle is important దీనికోసమే. See, alpha, sweet clover. Clovers అంటే లవంగాల. Yeah. So sweet clovers, clover beans, alfalfa, clover, sweet pea, lentils, garden pea, beans. So beans, peas వచ్చేటివి, alfalfa, clovers. These are the things that we have. So here answer will be chickpea, clover ఖచ్చితంగా ఉండాలి, 3, 4 ఉంటుంది, alfalfa 1, 3, 4. So remember the names by heart చేయండి. legume plants. So alfalfa, sweet clover, sweet pea, lentils, garden pea, broad bean, clover bean. Right? By heart it. That's it. After that, aquatic ecosystems. There is a concern over the increase in harmful algal blooms in the sea water. What could be the causative factors? For this phenomena? So there has been a concern over increase in harmful algal blooms. Algal blooms, cyanobacteria, algal blooms ante. Now why it will occur? Due to eutrophication. Eutrophication ante excess amount of nutrients, particularly nitrogen nutrients in the water is called eutrophication. ద్వారా ఆ న్యూట్రియన్స్ ఉండడం వల్ల ఆల్గల్ బ్లూమ్స్ అనేవి ఎక్కువ అవుతా వస్తాయి. There is a concern over the increase in the harmful algal blooms in sea waters in India. So చాలా చోట్ల ఈ ఆల్గల్ బ్లూమ్స్ అనేవి కనిపిస్తాయి. What could be the causative? What is the reason for this? Discharge of nutrients from the estuaries. Yes, discharge of nutrients is one of the biggest reason. Runoff from the lands during monsoons. That is the reason soils low, monsoons time low, it will pass. So runoff ద్వారా discharge of nutrients జరుగుతాయి. Upwelling of seas. ద్వారా it will not create impact. ఎందుకు? ఒకవేళ upwelling of sea, what do you mean by upwelling of seas? In geography you'll study this upwelling phenomena. Upwelling ante, if this is the sea, sometimes what happens is the sea will rise like this. Here there will be, due to some pressure difference, water will start rising up. ఇది ఎందుకు జరుగుతుందంటే డ్యూ టు టెంపరేచర్ డిఫరెన్సెస్. వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్ ఇస్, టేక్ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ యూ గో టు ద ఈక్వటోరియల్ రీజన్కి వెళ్ళినప్పుడు దెర్ విల్ బి హై సన్లైట్, హెన్స్ దెర్ విల్ బి హ్యూజ్ ఎవాపరేషన్ ఆఫ్ వాటర్. When water gets evaporated, salts will remain here. Now this salts, water కాస్త ఎవాల్వ్ అయ్యే కొద్దీ salts అనేవి ఇక్కడ మిగిలిపోతాయి. Salts will create high density here. salts will create high density. As a result, pressure will start falling here. అంటే ఎక్కువ ప్రెషర్ అనేది క్రియేట్ చేస్తాయి సాల్ట్స్. ఎందుకు? వాటర్ వెళ్ళిపోతే సాల్ట్స్ ఒక్కటి ఉంటాయి కాబట్టి వెయిట్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి దే విల్ క్రియేట్ ప్రెషర్. యాజ్ ఎ రిజల్ట్ వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్ ఈజ్ ఆన్ ద అదర్ సైడ్ ద లిక్విడ్ విల్ రైజ్. ఇదంతా ఒక బకెట్ లాగా అనుకుంటే ఒక సైడ్ ప్రెషర్ పెడితే ఇంకొక సైడ్ వేయాల్సిందే, రైట్? సో హియర్ ప్రెషర్ ఈస్ క్రియేటెడ్. యాజ్ ఎ రిజల్ట్ వాటర్ విల్ లిఫ్ట్ ఆన్ ద అదర్ సైడ్. Water will lift on the other side. This is called upwelling of waters. Now, when this is called upwelling of waters, when upwelling is happening, water will be accumulated more and more here. So, కింద ఉండే వాటర్ కూడా కొంచెం పైకి రావడం జరుగుతుంది. సో ఎందుకు జరుగుతుంది? Just like this, you can consider the entire oceans will be just like this itself. So what happens? ఇక్కడ నుంచి వాటర్ పోయే కొద్దీ ప్రెషర్ అనేది ఇక్కడ పడుతుంది. ప్రెషర్ ఇక్కడ పడింది కాబట్టి వాటర్ ఇక్కడ రైజ్ అవుతుంటాయి. దిస్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ అప్వెల్లింగ్. సో దిస్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ డౌన్ వెల్లింగ్. దిస్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ అప్వెల్లింగ్. During El Nino season, La Nino season, we will see this, right? This is called upwelling and downwelling. So upwelling, downwelling ద్వారా it is creating algal blooms అనేసి అంటుంది. That will not create. If algal blooms is created by upwelling and downwelling, so upwelling, downwelling లేకుండానే it can create. Are you understanding this? ఎందుకు? ఆల్రెడీ న్యూట్రియన్స్ అనేవి దీంట్లోనే ఉంటాయి. సో ఎక్సెస్ న్యూట్రియన్స్ వచ్చి జాయిన్ అవ్వడం వల్ల ఇట్ విల్ స్టార్ట్ క్రియేటింగ్ ఆల్గల్ బ్లూమ్స్. బట్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ ద ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ న్యూట్రియన్స్ ఆల్గల్ బ్లూమ్స్ అనేవి క్రియేట్ అవ్వవు. ఎక్స్ట్రాగా వచ్చే దాని ద్వారా అప్వెల్లింగ్ జరుగుతుందంటే ఏంటి? ఉండే న్యూట్రియన్స్ ద్వారానే అక్కడ సర్క్యులేట్ అవుతుంది, అంతే కదా? సో అప్వెల్లింగ్ ఈజ్ హ్యాపెనింగ్ ఆర్ న్యూట్రియంట్ ఈజ్ చేంజింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ హియర్ టు హియర్. ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ సిస్టంలోనే న్యూట్రియన్స్ చేంజ్ అవుతుంటాయి. బట్ దిస్ ఈజ్ నాట్ resulting in algal blooms. This is because of extra nutrients which is coming and joining. That is going to create here. Option ఏమి ఇచ్చిండు దీనికి? 3 ఇచ్చిండా? ఓకే. Upwelling of seas. Deep waters లో ఉండే న్యూట్రియన్స్. ఓకే. Yeah, nutrient will come up anta. This is because of this it is going to create. Right. So nutrients are also coming along with this. As a result, it increases algal blooms. So upwelling is also one reason. So you can remember 3. So upwelling of seas brings nutrients. But the question is upwelling is going to bring microorganisms onto the top? Fishes emaina paiki vastaya? Organisms will not move. Nutrients move అవుతాయి కానీ organisms can sustain there itself. Organisms can sustain there itself. Organisms move అయ్యే ఛాన్స్ చాలా తక్కువ ఉంటుంది. Nutrients, yes, they will move. So the answer is 1, 2, 3. The answer is 1, 2, 3. Organisms కొన్నిసార్లు మూవ్ అవుతుంది, బట్ ఆప్షన్స్ లో ఏమి ఇచ్చిండు ఒకసారి? They will not move. న్యూట్రియన్స్ తినేకి వస్తాయి ఆర్గానిజమ్స్, బట్ ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ ఆటోమేటిక్గా దే విల్ నాట్ లిఫ్ట్. Organisms, they will not lift automatically. We will have one question there itself. Next one. Biological oxygen demand is a standard criteria for measuring oxygen levels in blood, computing oxygen levels in the forest ecosystems, pollution assay in aquatic ecosystems, assessing oxygen levels in high altitude regions. So what is biological oxygen demand? Pollution. Biological oxygen demand. This is the oxygen that is demanded for degradation of bioorganisms. This is the oxygen that is required to dissolve or to decompose the biological organisms. So బయోలాజికల్ ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ ని డీకంపోజ్ చేయడానికి ఎంతైతే ఆక్సిజన్ రిక్వైర్ అవుతుందో దాన్ని బిఓడి అంటాం. దెర్ ఈస్ వన్ మోర్ థింగ్, దట్ ఈస్ సిఓడి, కెమికల్ ఆక్సిజన్ డిమాండ్. దిస్ ఈస్ ద ఆక్సిజన్ దట్ ఈస్ డిమాండెడ్ టు డీకంపోజ్ ఇన్ఆర్గానిక్ కాంపోనెంట్స్. ఆర్గానిక్ కాంపోనెంట్స్ డీకంపోజ్ చేయడానికి ఎంతైతే అవసరం అవుతుందో దాన్ని బిఓడి అంటాం. ఇన్ఆర్గానిక్ కాంపోనెంట్స్ ఏదైనా డీకంపోజ్ చేయడానికి ఎంతైతే అవసరం అవుతుందో సిఓడి. సో బిఓడి, సిఓడి indicates what? The pollution levels. The more the pollution, the more will be the oxygen demand consumption. The more the pollution, the more will be the oxygen demand consumption. So biological oxygen demand is a standard criteria for Pollution measurements in aquatic ecosystems. Pollution measurements. Measuring oxygen levels in blood eman unda? Do you have any term for that? Measuring oxygen levels. Oxygen level in blood is called what? Hemoglobin ante endandi? ఏంటేంటి ఏమన్నా ఉందా టర్మ్ దానికి? Pulse oximeter. Okay. So pollution assay in aquatic ecosystems. Next one. Why is there a great concern about the microbeads that are released into the environment? What are microbeads? Beads అంటే ఏంటి? ముత్యాలు లాంటివి చిన్న చిన్నటి బీడ్స్ వస్తాయి కదా. మైక్రోబీడ్స్ అంటే మైక్రోస్కోపిక్ బీడ్స్ ఇవి. సో these are small pollutants which are entering into aquatic ecosystems. Aquatic ecosystems like enter అయ్యేటివి small pollutants ni microbeads or pollutants that are entering into aquatic. They are considered harmful to marine ecosystems. They are considered to cause skin cancer in children. They are small enough to be absorbed by crop plants in irrigated fields. They are found to be used in food adulterants. So why there is a great concern about microbeads? Microbeads are small microscopic beads which will be carried away into the so-called oceans and that will be consumed by aquatic organisms. So they are harmful to marine ecosystems. They are harmful to marine ecosystems. This current affairs news is they are considered harmful to marine ecosystems. Next, what is blue carbon? Carbon captured by oceans and coastal ecosystems. Carbon sequestrated in forests, biomass and agricultural soils. Carbon contained in petroleum and natural gas. Carbon present in atmosphere. Blue means ocean. Blue means water. Oceans in representation blue. Carbon means this. So carbon dioxide that is stored in water is called blue carbon. So A. So look at the term. Blue ante blue economy. Ante enti economy from water. That is called oceans. Carbon captured by oceans. Blue ante ocean. So carbon captured by oceans and coastal ecosystems is called blue carbon. Carbon sequestrated in forests, biomass and agricultural soils emanunda? You have any other name for that? Carbon? Oceans can also act as carbon sink. Carbon? Biosequestration. So carbon sequestrated in forest, biomass and agricultural soils is called biosequestration. Okay. Carbon contained in petroleum and natural gas. Geological sequestration. Okay, I'll just check it once. Geological ante appudu oceans kuda avutayi. Leave it. So first one is carbon captured by oceans is called blue carbon. In the context of ecosystem productivity, marine upwelling zones are important as they increase marine productivity by bringing what? So in the context of ecosystem productivity, marine upwelling ante enti ide marine upwelling zones are important as they increase marine productivity by bringing what? Marine productivity increase avutundi. So upwelling జరిగినప్పుడు ఏమొస్తాయి కింద నుంచి? Decomposing organisms to the surface, nutrients to the surface, bottom dwelling organisms to the surface. What they will bring? Nutrients. So nutrients వస్తాయి కాబట్టి algal blooms జరుగుతాయి అనేసి ఉంది ఇక్కడ. So that question and this question are related then. So nutrients కింద నుంచి పైకి వస్తాయి కాబట్టి algal blooms అనేవి జరుగుతాయి. However, organisms cannot come. Organisms will have individual existence. So answer should be only two. What they gave? Only two they gave. Which one? Carbon contains in petroleum. వదిలే అది నేను తర్వాత చెప్తా. Hydrocarbons is hydrogen plus carbon. That is hydrocarbon antam. Leave it. In the context of ecosystem productivity, marine upwelling zones are important as they increase the marine productivity by bringing nutrients to the surface. Nutrients vasthayi upwelling lo. In order to consume that nutrients, other organisms might come like fish. So మెరైన్ అప్వెల్లింగ్ జరిగినప్పుడు న్యూట్రియన్స్ మాత్రమే పైకి వస్తాయి. ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ కూడా పైకి వచ్చేటట్లయితే ఇంకా ఆర్గానిజం సెల్ఫ్ ఎగ్జిస్టెన్స్ ఏముండదు. రైట్, ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ అక్కడే ఉంటాయి. వై ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ విల్ కమ్ టు కన్జ్యూమ్ న్యూట్రియన్స్, బట్ ఇన్ ద అప్వెల్లింగ్ న్యూట్రియన్స్ విల్ బి కమింగ్. Due to this upwelling or nutrients coming, algal blooms will also happen. So this is how it is related to only. Next one, what would happen if phytoplankton of ocean is completely destroyed for some reason? Phytoplanktons. What are phytoplanktons? These are producers in oceans. Movable microscopic ఏమన్నారు? Okay, movable microscopic plants. What would happen if phytoplankton of ocean is completely destroyed? So phytoplanktons ante enti? These are the things which will fix the sunlight and produce food in the oceans. Just like photosynthesis ద్వారా జరిగేది ఇక్కడ జరుగుతుంటే phytoplanktons అంటాం. What happens if it is completely destroyed? The ocean as a carbon sink would be adversely affected. The food chains in the oceans would be adversely affected. The density of ocean water would drastically decrease. Now look at this. The food chains in the ocean would be adversely affected. The ocean as a carbon sink would be adversely affected. Yes or no? Now look at this. Phytoplanktons ఎక్కువ అయ్యే కొద్దీ what they will do? They will consume the sunlight through photosynthesis. They will be doing it. As a result, they will be used as a carbon sink. So phytoplanktons can be used as carbon sink ద్వారా ఉపయోగపడతాయి అవి. So 1 and 2 will be present. The density of ocean water would drastically decrease అన్నాడు. గ్రీష్మ చెప్పినట్లు మైక్రోస్కోపిక్ మూవింగ్ ప్రొడ్యూసర్స్ ఇవి అంటే ఏంటి? దే విల్ నాట్ హ్యావ్ మచ్ వెయిట్ కదా. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్. సో డ్రాస్టికలీ డిక్రీజ్. దే విల్ హ్యావ్ లెస్ వెయిట్. ద టాపిక్ ఈస్ దిస్ విల్ బి హ్యావింగ్ లెస్ వెయిట్. The weight of these phytoplanktons compared to the weight of these oceans is very, very minute. Right, oceans are large water bodies. In this, they are floating organisms. Float outunai, they will have negligible mass compared to the mass of these oceans. As a result, ఇది రిమూవ్ అయినంత మాత్రాన దీని డెన్సిటీ తగ్గుతుంది అంటే తప్పు. Right, so this is wrong. So you can remember phytoplanktons are మూవింగ్ ఏమన్నారండి? మూవింగ్ మైక్రోస్కోపిక్ మూవబుల్ ప్లాంట్స్. గుడ్, మైక్రోస్కోపిక్ మూవబుల్ ప్లాంట్స్. నెక్స్ట్, ఆన్ ద ప్లానెట్ ఎర్త్. ఇది చదివారండి 7th class NCERTనా? నేనేం చెప్పాను ముందు చదవమని? 7th NCERT. On the planet Earth, most of the fresh water is as ice caps and glaciers. Out of the remaining fresh water, the largest proportion is. 7th class NCERT లో వచ్చింది ఇది. Right, you have book. Oh sorry, in 7th class NCERT you have direct question here. The directly NCERT question. So page number 32, distribution of water bodies. This is the reason I asked you to study this, right? So we all know that 3/4 of the earth is covered by water. If there is more water than land if there is more water than land on the earth, why do so many countries face water scarcity? This is because water is available in this, so that they have given. So oceans 97.3% of water, ice caps 2%, groundwater 0.68, fresh and water lakes 0.009, inland seas and salt lakes 0.009. Again, atmosphere, rivers. Photo this better quickly. So this is directly a question of NCERT. On the planet Earth, most of the fresh water is present in ice caps and glaciers. Out of the remaining fresh water, largest proportion is bound in atmosphere as moisture and clouds. is browned in freshwater lakes and rivers, exists as groundwater, exists in soil moisture. It is existing as groundwater. We have to remember the order. Order. Whatever. My youth fast unna. Now this is important. So you have to remember the order, guys. Distribution of water bodies, extremely important. Again, I am saying, we all know that 3/4 of the earth's surface is covered by water. Why we are facing water scarcity? Because much of this water is not consumable. Oceans lone ekku water undi, saline water 97.3. So only 2.7% of water is fresh water. As a result, we face water scarcity. 2.7% is fresh water. In this, majority of fresh water is present in ice caps. Majority of the fresh water is present in ice caps and glaciers, followed by groundwater, freshwater lakes, followed by inland seas and atmosphere and rivers. Rivers lo chala takku chudandi, rivers lo ekku anukuntam manam. So order is important. So ice caps and glaciers, freshwater, followed by groundwater, followed by lakes, inland seas, atmosphere and rivers. So order is good bet calling. What is the order? Oceans. Oceans length anni 97.3. Okay, 97 good bet kundamle. Migilin 3%. Where it is present? Fresh water in ice caps or glaciers, followed by groundwater, followed by lakes and inland seas, followed by atmosphere, followed by rivers. This is good bet call. Ice caps, groundwater, lakes, atmosphere, river. Next, salinity is the amount of salt in grams per 1000 water. The average salinity of the ocean is 35 parts per 1000. So Dead Sea borders ఏంటండి? Bordering Dead Sea is border between Jordan and Israel. Good. Dead Sea is in Israel has salinity of 340 grams per liter. Swimmers can float because of increased salt content. Why swimmers can float? This is the reason. This is also previous question. Right. This is the thing that you should know. So this is important. So the answer is right there. Ice caps, glaciers, followed by groundwater, followed by lakes, followed by atmospheres and rivers. Next, consider the following kinds of organisms: copypods, cyanobacteria, diatoms, foraminifera. Which of the following are primary producers in the food chains of oceans? Now look at here, food chains of oceans. ఇవన్నీ డిఫికల్ట్ క్వశ్చన్స్, కొంచెం ముందుగానే చదువుకోవాలి ఇవి. ఇందాక సైనోబాక్టీరియా గురించి ఎక్కడైనా వచ్చిందా? Blue green algae is called cyanobacteria. Leguminous plants. So this is the thing. So consider the following kinds. Cyanobacteria is blue green algae. So they are phytoplanktons. They can prepare their own food. So option 2 is compulsory. So option should be between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. So Look at this. You have to remember these 4 terms. Repetitive question chance undi diniki. So have a look at it. The answer is diatoms on this one. But look at it. Copepods. Photos Photos Copepods are great ecological importance, providing food for many species of fish. Free living copepods form a crucial link in the food chains and are often assigned the role of primary consumers. So they are consumers. Copepods are native consumers. Cyanobacteria is blue-green algae, a microscopic organisms found naturally in all waters. This is phytoplankton antam. These single-celled organisms live in freshwater, brackish water, and marine water. These organisms use sunlight to make their own food. So cyanobacteria, blue-green algae make their own food. Diatoms are photosynthesizing algae. Important. Diatoms are photosynthesizing algae. So blue-green algae lagane, idu kuda photosynthesis algae. They have siliceous skeleton and are found in every aquatic environment. Foraminifera are found in all marine ecosystems. They may be planktic or benthic in their mode. They depend upon bacteria, small diatoms. They are consumers. So copepods, foraminifera are consumers. Cyanobacteria, diatoms are producers. Photos పంపించవా? Yeah, have a look at this. Bro. Now look at this. This is copepods. Endu photos gurtundali. Again, repetitive questions aye chance undi. That is the reason I am showing you photos. Copepods is this. Second one is, this is cyanobacteria. This is cyanobacteria, which can prepare their own food. This is diatoms. They also can prepare their own food. These are single-celled organisms. And this is for omnifera. For omnifera. దీని బదులు డైరెక్ట్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవడం మేలు ఉండదు. ఓకే, సో గుర్తుంటాయండి. కోపీపోడ్, ఫోరామినిఫెరా, రిపిటేటివ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఛాన్స్ ఉంది. సో కన్సూమర్స్ అవి, ప్రైమరీ ప్రొడ్యూసర్స్ ఆర్ దిస్ వన్. సైనోబాక్టీరియా, డయాటమ్స్ ఆర్ ఆల్గే. ఆల్గేనే కదా ఇది. నెక్స్ట్, with reference to water on the planet Earth. చూడండి ఇంకో క్వశ్చన్. With reference to water on planet Earth, consider the following. The amount of water in the rivers and lakes is more than the amount of groundwater. The amount of water in the rivers and lakes is more than the amount in groundwater. The amount of water in polar ice caps and glaciers is more than amount of groundwater. ఇది ఎక్కడ మళ్ళీ ఈ పర్సంటేజెస్లోకి పోయి అడిగిండు క్వశ్చన్, రైట్? సేమ్ క్వశ్చన్ ఇందాక చదివిందే, రిపిటేటివ్, బట్ దే హ్యావ్ ఆస్క్డ్ ఇన్ డెప్త్ హియర్. నౌ లుక్ అట్ దిస్. ఐస్ క్యాప్స్లో 2 ఉంటే మిగతాదంతా కలిపి 0.7. సో అందులో కూడా ఐస్ క్యాప్స్ గ్రౌండ్ వాటర్ అయితే 2.7 అవుతుంది ఆల్మోస్ట్. సో క్వశ్చన్ ఈజ్ దిస్: the amount of water in the rivers and lakes is more than the amount of groundwater annadu. So groundwater is 0.68. Atmospheres and rivers is not even close to it. So this is wrong. The amount of water in the polar ice caps and glaciers is more than the amount of groundwater. No. This is 2%. Groundwater is 0.68. Both are wrong. Huh? Yeah. The amount of water in polar ice caps or glaciers is more than amount of groundwater. Yeah, second one is correct. So because this is 2%, that is 0.68. Again, this is directly NCERT question. NCERT lo akkada icharu kabatti ikkada ichadu question. Next, coral reefs, mangroves, wetland ecosystems. Questions levanesi తీసేసిండ్రు. These are the things that we have. So what we discussed today, I'll stop the class here. So what we discussed today, I said what is biology, what is ecology, this one. ఎకాలజీలో గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సినవి ఏం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి, తర్వాత ecosystems అంటే ఏంటి, then some questions. So in the questions, what is important that you have to go through, you have to know the terms ecotone, you know this, edge species, you know, ecocline, you know, ecological niche, habitat range, home range. Next, ecosystem definition, you know, food chains, food webs. Food chain అంటే ఏంటి, అమాంగ్ ద స్పీసీస్ ఏ విధంగా ఫుడ్ అనేది ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ అవుతా ఉంది. ఫుడ్ వెబ్ ఈస్ ద నెంబర్. నెక్స్ట్, సో బయో అక్యుములేషన్, బయో మ్యాగ్నిఫికేషన్ జరగాలంటే ఏం జరగాలి, దిస్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్. నెక్స్ట్, మిలీనియం ఎకోసిస్టమ్, ఫంక్షన్స్ ఆఫ్ ఎకోసిస్టమ్స్, ప్రొవిజనింగ్ ఫంక్షన్, సపోర్టింగ్ ఫంక్షన్, cultural function, preservative function. These are the 4 functions. You have to remember that functions. Next one, virus, bacteria, fungi. Virus different, bacteria, fungi ivanni okati. So virus anetivi they cannot act as decomposers. Next, ecological successions. So there will be 2 types of successions, primary succession, secondary succession, these things. And then cycles of ecosystem. One is gaseous cycle, sedimentary cycle. These 2 things you have to remember. After that, you have nitrogen fixing plants. Gaseous cycle lo nitrogen fixing plants గురించి చదువుకోవాలి. తర్వాత యూట్రిఫికేషన్ అంటే ఏదో అర్థమైంది కదా, హార్మ్ఫుల్ ఆల్గల్ బ్లూమ్స్ దేని వల్ల జరుగుతాయి, రైట్, దేని వల్ల జరుగుతాయి, యూట్రిఫికేషన్ వల్ల, రన్ అప్ ఫ్రమ్ ద సాయిల్స్ వల్ల, అప్వెల్లింగ్ వల్ల న్యూట్రియన్స్ పైకి వస్తాయి, కానీ అప్వెల్లింగ్ వల్ల ఆటోమేటిక్గా అనిమల్స్, మైక్రో ఆర్గానిజమ్స్ పైకి రావు. To consume that they can come, that is the thing. Next, BOD, COD, biochemical oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand, these things. And then fresh water availability, ekkadekadu unnai anesi, these are the things. These are static component, please go through it. What I will do is I will prepare one PDF that we have studied today, just go through that. So this book is good, you can refer that book. If you want to purchase, you can purchase this book also. ఈ బుక్ పర్చేస్ చేస్తానంటే చేయండి. Here itself this book is good. In this you can go through it. Already few people have it, so you can refer only to this. Don't keep too many things, only one book you refer. Majority questions ఇవే రిపీటింగ్ గా ఉంటాయి, రైట్. This is the thing that we have. We continue tomorrow's class. Today at 4 o'clock I'll start in current affairs, right. Thanks for joining.